Well, did tax troubles lead a man to commit suicide, or did a $1 million insurance policy motivate his wife to commit murder?
The case involves nationally known experts and controversial evidence. Tonight, the story of a convicted woman waiting for justice.
It's a murder case with all the ingredients for a movie.
It involves a $1 million insurance policy, an expert witness from the O.J. Simpson trial, and allegations a police officer lied to get a conviction. This month, a woman sentenced to life for killing her husband may be freed, and an Oklahoma City police officer is playing a key role in her appeal. Tonight, in his special report, Texas Justice Mike Gautreaux introduces us to the accused and tells us about the shooting that landed her in jail.
Susie Mowbray is in a Texas prison for life, convicted of killing her husband. While she's been behind these fences, her father has died, her son has married, and her daughter has grown up. For her, the last 8 years have literally been a nightmare.
Susie, you were screaming in your sleep last night, you know. What'd I say? You were screaming, don't shoot. They think I'm begging someone not to shoot me. I'm begging Bill not to shoot himself.
After 8 years in prison, the justice system may now set Susie Mowbray free. To understand why, you have to understand what happened so long ago. Susie was married to Bill Mowbray, a Brownsville, Texas Cadillac dealer. The couple lived in a spacious home just outside of town. That's where police say on September 16, 1987, Susie shot and killed her husband while he slept in their bed. She claims to have woken up just in time to see her husband commit suicide.
And, you know, I wake up to sounds and I see the raised shoulder and the arm, and you know, I'm foggy. I'm asleep. And he was crying. I'd never heard him cry before. But I touched his shoulder and it was just immovable. And I mean, that reality, boom. I knew. When I touched him, I knew what was going on.
Prosecutors and police didn't believe her story, even though Bill Mowbray had attempted suicide before, and even though he had hinted to a close friend that he would do so again.
He was a moody person, and he was that day not any more moody than normal, but he did tell me that he was having trouble with the Internal Revenue Service. And I told him, well, I sort of made light of it. I said, well, you pay your fine and go on from there. He says, oh no, this is where you go to jail. And he says, before I'd go to jail, I'll be gone. And I didn't pay attention to what that had to do with. I just blew it off. But sure enough, that night he was gone.
The jury never heard that story, but it turns out the Mowbray car dealership was in financial trouble, and Bill Mowbray was under criminal investigation for tax problems. But the prosecution's case concentrated on problems within the Mowbray marriage and an insurance policy worth more than $1 million. Through it all, Susie Mowbray was confident the system wouldn't fail her.
I had waited 9 months for a trial, and I kept thinking, okay, when they get up and raise their hand to swear the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, then we'll get all of this straightened out. And I had to sit there one after another, watch people with the law enforcement agencies raise their hand and not tell the truth.
The prosecution's key testimony in this case came from a man who works here at the Austin Police Department. Sergeant Dusty Heskew is a self-proclaimed blood analysis expert. At the trial, he made an interesting demonstration. Heskew brought in bedroom furniture to show the jury just how he thought the murders occurred. But interestingly, all of Heskew's theories are based on bloodstains he says he found on Susie Mowbray's nightgown. Bloodstains that to date, no other expert has been able to find.
In Texas, Dusty Heskew has quite a reputation. He's even been called Texas's top blood detective. In this article, Heskew even brags about the Mowbray case as some of his best work. It also mentions Heskew studied under nationally known blood spatter expert Dr. Herbert McDonald. You may remember Herbert McDonald from the O.J. Simpson trial. He testified about the bloody socks in the case. Ironically, McDonald was the first expert to examine the nightgown and other evidence in the Mowbray crime scene. He says there wasn't any blood on Susie Mowbray's gown. Prosecutors were apparently unhappy with his report.
So my conclusion was she could not have fired this shot. That apparently is not what the district attorney and his associate wanted me to say. So after Sending the report, I never heard from them again. And it went to trial. And as I understand it, they, what we say in the business, shopped around. They looked for someone else to give an opinion favorable to their case.
An opinion that's put Susie Mowbray in prison for life. And for 8 years now, she's been waiting for justice. Mike Gautreaux, 5 News.
The Austin police officer in our story refused an on-camera interview, but Sergeant Dusty Heskew says he stands by his findings. Meanwhile, a judge will make a decision on Susie Mowbray's fate in just a few days, and we'll let you know what happens. And tomorrow night, we'll introduce you to the Oklahoma City police officer working on the case. He's a nationally known blood spatter expert who was at the Mowbray trial 8 years ago. He says she shouldn't be in prison today.
That is fascinating stuff.
Fascinating stuff.
Yes.